Hello, fellow diggers. Hey Bill and Bob, it's JD. Just going to give you a little quick tutorial here to help you out with your new E-Tracs. Congratulations, I'm sure you're going to love the machines. I'm not going to show you a whole lot, but I try to keep it simple too. I don't get into a lot of craziness. I just got used to the machine from just using it a lot. Like I struggle with instruction manuals, and I can't stand reading and all that, so I just get out and go and pick up little, a few bits here and there as I go, and listen to what a few other people have to say, and if I have any questions, ask around, and as you get used to it, you just pick up more tips and tricks. But yeah, this is it here. You got your power button here at the top left. Such a sweet sound. These two buttons here, you don't really need them, so don't let them overwhelm you. This top right button is the backlight, which I'm going to put on now for the video. Just make sure, unless you're night hunting, leave this off because it will eat up your battery a lot quicker. So that just turns it on and off, but I'll leave it on for now. These are just the navigational arrows for your menu. So in the field, you really don't need a whole lot of buttons. You got your power button up here, and the first thing you want to do when you turn your detector on is you raise your coil. I'm not going to show here, but you just raise your coil about a foot above the ground, and you hold it still. And on the far bottom right here, you press this noise cancel button. And then you just wait for that to kind of go through. That's going to check to see what frequency it needs to run on, if you're by power lines and that, so that's going to really help you. If you don't do that, sometimes you might have to deal with a lot more chattering, so it is helpful. So wait for that to go through. And now if you wanted to, right out of the box, all you got to do is turn it on, hold it a foot above the ground, hit the noise cancel, and you're ready to go. You could start finding coins instantly. Let's see here. Okay, now I'm zoomed in here on the screen just a little bit. I'm going to show you here. While you're in the field, when you want to pinpoint, you're just going to press this button right here, which is the little target, and that takes you into pinpoint mode. I have the volume down very low now. And then when you want to go back to your main mode and take it out of pinpoint mode, you just press the pinpoint button again. It's very simple. When you go into your menu, I'm not going to show how to do the patterns in that. That's a little bit trickier. I had to mess with that quite a while when I first got my detector. So once you're in your menu, the box it highlights here is the one you're on. So you just use your navigational arrows, and you can skip those for now. That's just like selecting patterns or saving patterns and that. So I'm going to skip through that for now. Let you guys figure that one out. You go over here, and this sensitivity screen, I have it set to manual, but when you get yours out of the box, it's going to be set on auto. So if you press the navigational arrow when it's highlighted, that'll change that, but it'll come on auto. And auto +3, when you have it on auto sensitivity, this manual level means nothing because it's not using it. When I first got my E-Trac, since I didn't know much about using it either, probably the first several months I had it, maybe even longer, I just let it on auto sensitivity until I started learning it a lot better. But what I found is on the auto sensitivity, it just seems like it doesn't always pick the best settings. Like anytime you can set something yourself, you're always going to be better off. So this is what I like to do, but when you're starting out, just leave it on auto. You want to get used to all your tones first before you mess with any of this. But the max sensitivity level is up to 30. Now, when I put this over to manual, you hear the detector starts chattering really bad. Well, obviously, because I'm in my house. So what I like to do is, if you're in a place that's got a lot of power lines or whatever it is, when you turn your detector on, if you hear a lot of that chattering and you're in manual mode, just go to your manual level and just keep checking it, and just keep counting down from 30 until most of that chattering is gone. And you know, I like to run it as high as I can, even if there's a little bit of chattering, because the higher this number is, the deeper your detector is going to go. And that's, you know, if you can have this maxed out at 30, which is hard to do. A lot of spots you can't even get it close to 30, but if in really clean areas where there's a lot of deep targets, like baseball fields and places where the targets are way down there, you know, get this sensitivity level up as high as you can, because that's going to help you find the deeper targets. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back in auto. So it's, you see how when I put it in auto, it has it running on a really low sensitivity, because it knows, you know, all the interference that it's working with. So that's just a crash course in the sensitivity. You know, run it as high as you can. It's going to find you deeper stuff, and you know, I know that for sure. Next place in the menu, I'm sure you guys know the threshold level. That's just, you know, how high the threshold runs. You got your volume gain. I don't even mess with that. The tone ID, you can change your tone. I believe the E-Trac, when you first get it, it has it in multi-tone. I mean, in my opinion, that is your best thing, because you know that separates your, you know, your low tones, mid tones, and high tones really well. If you take it out of multi-tone, a lot of the sounds are going to sound the same. So I mean, I almost always run multi. But you know, later on, once you get to know your machines better, I can let you guys know some tricks for using like two-tone ferrous and a couple other modes that, you know, help in really trashy areas. But for now, I would definitely just stay in multi. That's what I run my detector in. You know, probably 99% of the time, I'm almost always in multi-tone. So you don't really need to change any of that. I just find it useful with the tips I gave on the sensitivity. That's one thing that I'm always adjusting depending on where I'm at. And it's one thing I didn't, you know, really know how to do very well until I started using my detector a lot. Other than that, these settings here, I'm an expert. I don't use them too often, but it's really basic. You know, if you have your sensitivity up really, really high, and you're in an area where you want to find you know, really deep coins, and just, you know, swing real slow and take your time, get your sensitivity up as high as, you know, the detector can handle, and turn recovery deep on. And what recovery fast is, that just helps the recovery time of the detector for when it goes over, you know, targets that are being discriminated out. So if you're in like a tot lot, or a place where you're just looking for real shallow targets, and you want your detector to adjust fast when you're swinging, what I do is I take recovery deep off. I believe when the detector comes, the stock settings are both going to have these both off, I believe. But if like you're hunting the tot lots or somewhere where you're trying to find shallow targets and you want the detector to really weed through the trash fast, just come to recovery fast and turn it on. Very simple. I normally have it off because I'm almost always looking for the deep older coins, but this would be helpful in tot lots. Now another trick, if you're looking for shallow targets, because the E-Trac is a very sensitive machine, if you're hunting a tot lot or something like that, put on the recovery fast, come back over to your sensitivity, and if you have it in manual mode, you know, take this down a lot more. That way you're not getting way into the ground and, you know, finding, you know, metal structures in the playground or stuff like that. You know, if you're in a tot lot where everything's, you know, pretty much 1-2 inches down, I mean, you can take this manual level probably the whole way down to 10 or 15, and that way you're not going to get a lot of chattering or, you know, real deep, you know, structural targets or stuff like that. That way you can just try to pull, you know, the surface stuff out of the tot lot. If you go into a tot lot and you have your sensitivity really high up there, it can be difficult sometimes. So that's just a trick for that. But other than that, you know, that's really the sensitivity and, you know, your basic settings and your patterns. That's really the only settings on the E-Trac I ever touched. So all the other stuff I wouldn't even bother with right now. And hold on for 1 second. Okay, and one other useful thing. just, you know, from whatever screen you're on when you want to get back to your main screen when you're detecting, like when you're in your menu or anywhere else, all you do is press the little coil icon here, and that takes you back to your detecting screen. So, well, it's not going to give me numbers here when I wave my coil, but if you have your pattern set up here and you press it again, what this does is it just minimizes your pattern so you can see your pattern here, and then instead of displaying the numbers small at the top, the numbers are going to be really large in this big square here, so that way when you're in the field, if you just want to look at your numbers real quick, every signal you get, there you go, one popped up, it's really, really big. But then when you hit it again, we'll see if it'll do it. Yeah, see, it's trying to discriminate everything out, but the numbers come up at the top here. So this is helpful if you're not always wanting to squint looking at the numbers on your screen. But I like to keep my pattern as the main thing to look at, to see, you know, where the targets are coming up on the screen, because you see the numbers up here are pretty big. So I always leave it like this, but it can be useful if you want to look in high trash areas and just see the numbers all the time. So but yeah, anytime you're in a menu or anywhere else in your detector, just press that coil and it'll get you back to the main search screen. One other thing that is useful to show with the E-Trac is, unlike the White's detectors, which are concentric coils, which search into the ground like a V, so you have to be swinging your detector to get the signals. The E-Trac, you can swing it, you know, real slow. Make sure you keep your coil low to the ground instead of having that sway like you do with the White's detectors. You know, I used to use one. Try to keep it low, keep the coil flat, and just, you know, take it nice and easy. You don't really have to overlap your swings, because the E-Trac, what it does is it has two bands inside that pick up the signals. Unlike the White's detectors, where you always get your signal right in the middle of the coil. Say, for instance, if you take a coin and run it over the E-Trac. Let me grab one here real quick. Okay, so there's two bands under the coil that are going to pick up the signal. So here's a quarter here that I found. So you're going to get the signal the whole way up through the coil, and you can hear that pitch, but there's one band in like the front part of the detector and one part in the back, so the pinpointing on the E-Tracs are a little bit different than the White's machines. I have a very unorthodox method for pinpointing. I don't do it by the book, and I honestly don't recommend it because it's pretty tricky, but it's kind of something I picked up with other detectors, and I never switched over to do it the right way. So I won't show you that because I'll only confuse you. But keep in mind, when you're waving your coil across the ground and you get a signal, what I did a lot when I was starting out is, if you're swinging real fast, you can miss the target with the first band, and you know, you pick it up on the band that's in the back side of the coil, like back here. So what you would do is, sometimes if you go to pinpoint, you can pinpoint it with the wrong band. So you're pinpointing it and you think your target's you know, like right under here, and it ends up the coin signal you actually got is back here. So it's something you'll get used to as you go. Like I said, I pinpoint kind of weird, so it's so I probably made it more difficult for myself starting out. But you can hear the different pitches. How that's a quarter, and that really sounds good. Now this is that silver dime I found today. See that it doesn't really sound a whole lot different than a quarter, but once you get used to hearing them signals, you'll definitely be able to tell. And here's a nickel. So the one tip I have is, you know, always go for, you know, any tone that's solid, no matter, you know, what tone it's coming in as. Like anything that's not choppy is, you know, normally better. You'll see, like when you first start trying to get better at digging the nickels, you'll learn real quick the difference between nickels and like beaver tails and stuff like that, because they are very similar. But once you get used to hearing that depth of tone, you'll start to be able to pick out the nickels, you know, more than all the other stuff. Alright, and just one more quick thing before I forget. If you're like me, when you first get a machine, I like go crazy and messing with all the settings. And I don't know how many times I master reset my settings when I first got used to it, because I wanted to make sure I didn't tweak anything, the wrong way, so that it was messing up, my detecting in the field. So if you do mess with the settings and you're not sure they're set right, just, go in, like, you're on your main screen, just go into your menu by clicking like the little instruction booklet button there, and with the top thing, just go the whole way over to the menu on the far right and scroll the whole way down to the master reset, and then just reset your settings. That way you'll know it's set back to the way it came out of the box, and you can just turn it on and go and hunt. And it's an easy machine. All you got to do is learn the tones. Even if you just turn it on right out of the box, noise cancel it and go, you are going to find coins that other detectors can't find. I mean, that's what I did when I got it. I turned it on, I hit the noise cancel, I went in my backyard. At the time I was living in a 1940s house. I immediately found wheat pennies in my yard, 5 inches deep, clear as a bell signals, that my White's M6 machine didn't even give a peep on. So I mean, even if you don't mess with any of the settings up front, this machine's going to find coins that other detectors miss. So I mean, that's the great thing about it. All the settings do help when you start to get better with it, and you get used to hunting in different conditions and looking for deeper coins. It can help, but out of the box, this is a fantastic machine. But that's all for now. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I like to help the best I can. And another tip for you: don't ever let your detector get this dirty. I use it a lot, so I don't clean it a lot, because I know it's just going to look the same the next day. But alright guys, I wish you all the best.